The short legislative session has been busy with a lot of big-ticket topics. Governor Malloy setting the tone and the pace from the start with an aggressive agenda. So how much will get accomplished? Democratic political strategist Matt Hennessy of Tremont Public Advisors is here to give his 2 cents. Matt, thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
So you just heard the whole discussion I had with Reese about the death penalty, and I'm wondering what you think the political impact will be, whether there'll be any fallout because of the repeal.
Lori, I think that in the General Assembly races coming up, there probably is not going to be that big of a blowback on the members of the House and Senate who voted to repeal this legislation. But I think if we take a look at the 5th District congressional race, you're going to see a lot of focus on this issue. As you know, there's a Republican primary and Democratic primary for an open seat there. Chris Donovan is in the lead, one might say, in that district. And as the Democratic nominee, he is going to face a lot of questions about why he is leading the charge for the repeal of the death penalty in the very congressional district where the Pettit murders happened. On the Republican side, Andrew Rohrback, who is a likely leader on the Republican side, he has in the past been against the death penalty, but noticed last night he voted to oppose the repeal. So you're going to see a lot of national media coming in, paid media from the Republicans, to make the death penalty a huge issue in the 5th congressional district
But
race.
why don't you think it will be at play in the General Assembly races?
I think in a couple swing districts it might be an issue, but even though the majority of Connecticut residents support having a death penalty, they're fairly ambivalent about it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're happy we have it, but they're happy we never use it. And so I think that when they deal with their local legislator, they're going to hear things that are going to make them feel good, such as the issue that this won't apply to the 11 who are there.
Is it possible that it could have an impact as far down the road as, you know, the next governor's race?
Absolutely. When it comes to governor's races, people think about a strong chief executive. They think about a law and order issue. So if there's another major horrific crime between now and the next race, be assured that's going to be part of the debate. Absolutely.
You know, there's so many big things going on. Education reform is obviously still continuing, still very contentious. How do you think it's affecting, I don't know, the governor's popularity at this point?
Well, I think the governor, we just recently had a Quinnipiac poll come out, and it showed a couple things. It showed that the governor's approval rating, though it's inching up, is still below 50%. It shows that most Connecticut residents believe that their local school system is very good or good, and most Connecticut residents think their local public school teachers they have a high favorability of 66%. So what does this all mean? If I'm a legislator and the only calls I'm getting are from teachers who are opposed to this reform package, which is focused on eliminating teacher tenure, I am not going to take the risk in an election year of getting out there in front of a group who's very active, very vocal, and I'm not hearing from my other constituents because they believe that their local school system's okay. So as a political issue, I think the focus on teacher tenure out of the box from the speech that the governor gave in January of the General Assembly, that really doomed this reform effort to being a very modest one.
Because he was so abrasive?
I think it was because he made teacher tenure virtually the most important part of this reform effort. And since most voters think that their teachers are great, and most voters think that their school systems are wonderful, they're not really that excited about this whole issue. And there could very well have been a different conversation if the governor had come out making what are necessary changes in agreements between school systems and teachers, but had made it clear that that's just one part of a much broader effort.
But it's interesting, you know, that people think that their teachers are great and their school systems are great, but I don't think there's anyone disputes that Connecticut has the largest achievement gap and that, you know, there need to be improvements to schools, but it just doesn't translate to making changes.
We're a suburban state. What we care about is what happens in our town. And in 80% of the towns in Connecticut, people are very content with the quality of education their children receive. So in the list of things they're worrying about right now, about whether they're going to have a job, economic stability, this is very low on their agenda. And the fact is if their next door neighbor's a teacher who they already respect and that teacher feels that they're going to lose their job, that's going to impact the voters around them.
Okay, the other topic that got a lot of attention so far is Sunday sales, the liquor reform bill. Again, in that, the governor really made sweeping proposals and really got a few things through.
He did, and I think most Democrats said this was a head scratcher. Though most Connecticut residents support Sunday sales, it's interesting to note that 42% are completely opposed to them. No one thought that this was necessarily a priority for this session. And the governor did make a number of sweeping proposals, including allowing hard liquor to be sold at grocery stores. And the majority of Connecticut residents are strongly opposed to that. So this is a bit of a head scratcher, which is Sunday sales in the list of things that people care about. They like the idea of being able to get a beer on Sunday, but in reality, most would argue there's other things we should be working on.
Right.
So I think that also impacted, though he did, there's no question, through his ability to lobby and use the bully pulpit, he did move this ball down the field. The question is, does that help him in the long run? And I think that is still open for debate.
Right. We have less than a minute. I know you wanted to talk about the racial profiling law.
Yeah, and I think that among the discussion about education reform and Sunday liquor sales, there's a very important bill that has been supported by Representative Kelvin Roldan from Hartford and members of the Black and Latino Caucus, which is strengthening the oversight of motorist stops made by local police departments. As we know, the big issue in East Haven with civil rights violations by the police there targeting Latinos, the Current did a very in-depth story which said this could be a much larger issue throughout the state. Luckily, the administration, the Malloy administration, is backing this bill this year, and it's going to pass both the House and the Senate, and communities are going to find out, how does their police department treat people of color in motor vehicle stops? And I think it's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of communities. Right,
interesting. So much to watch this session.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Matt, for being here and talking
My pleasure.
about it. Coming up next, the Northeast Utilities NSTAR merger is a done deal, but not everyone thinks it's a good deal. We'll talk pros and cons coming up.